As has become tradition for the series, Sly 3 begins with a cold opening. Quite literally, it's raining. I'm sorry. A silhouette is seen running along the vines and climbing atop a statue. Lightning flashes and the two guards are quickly taken out. Approaching the jetty, the silhouette is finally revealed to be none other than Sly Cooper. I know, shocking. I never would have guessed. Sly uses a stealth takedown on the third guard, and we are then brought to the title screen. Another one of the series' traditions, seamlessly integrating the title screen with the gameplay. The gaming industry really needs to start bringing this back. Game menus have gotten so generic and boring in recent times. Sly 3 Honor Among Thieves is the last Sly game developed by Sucker Punch. Although it isn't technically the final Sly game, it was definitely conceived to be the conclusion to the series. Coming out in 2005, Sucker Punch could see that the 6th generation of consoles were coming to an end, and with the dawn of the next generation, they wanted to move on to something new. This is kind of unrelated, but I really wanted to talk about it. You know how Uncharted 2 is called Among Thieves? Well, I'm pretty sure that Naughty Dog wanted the game to be called Honor Among Thieves, but the title was already taken by Sly 3. My evidence for this is 1. Among Thieves just sounds like an incomplete sentence, and B. There is a scene in Uncharted 2 where one of the characters does a title drop, but she says Honor Among Thieves.
Honor Among Thieves, huh?
Something like that.
Anyway, detour over, back to Sly. Starting a new game, Sly will immediately pull up the Panopticon, which annoyingly doesn't fill up the entire screen in the HD version. It's whatever, I don't care. Bentley is on the other end of the comms, telling Sly that everything and everyone is in sync and ready for Sly to make his way up to the vault. Then silhouettes of the other gang members come over the comms, hiding their identities, but for anyone who has played any of the other Sly games, one of these mysterious characters is really obvious as to who it is. He even still uses his iconic pink text. This section serves as a tutorial for the game, with some basic platforming and dodging of electrical traps and lasers. As Sly moves through the area, he will encounter obstacles that he will be unable to overcome. This is where the mysterious gang members enter the picture. Agent Heartthrob uses an RC chopper to pull down the guards and clear the way. Agent Old Rock was dispatched to dismantle a nearby satellite tower, so Sly could rail walk across. Soon after, Sly comes across an air vent that directly led to the ceiling of an underground lab. He orders Agent Monarch to launch a firework at the vent, breaking it open and allowing Sly to enter. This is our first encounter with Dr. M, the main antagonist in Sly 3. Sly overhears the conversation and learns that the guard Richard will not see his family again as Dr. M poisoned his drink during lunch. Why he did this? Well, Dr. M explains to Richard that he has an intolerance for poor performance. For Richard forgot to change the code for the newly installed security system from the default 1, 2, 3. Sounds like something I'd do.
Yes? Water leaking into the lab? I'm on my way down. Oh, then get a janitor for the lab elevator. Richard's got sloppy.
What a fantastic introduction to the villain. The game gives the player the information they need to complete the mission while also showing them how much of a bastard the main villain is, all while keeping the player in control, making you feel like you really are a fly on the wall, witnessing something that you weren't meant to. Bentley informs Sly that he is making his way to meet him at the vault, to help him haul out the loot. Sly balances his way across a few more wires and ledges to the vault door. Dr. M is attempting to force his way inside with various drills and lasers, but is having little success. Sly is able to disable the systems around the door by using the code he learned earlier. When Sly inserts his cane into the vault lock, the vault opens. A missile strikes the vault door just as it is about to fully open, knocking Sly away and closing the vault again. Dr. M then comes flying on a jetpack.
This vault belongs to the Cooper family. You're trespassing.
No, my naive boy, you're trespassing. I've got the deed to this island. This fortress is mine. Everything here is mine, which now includes the key to the vault. Hand over the king.
After a brief confrontation, Bentley sneaks up behind the doctor and fires a sleep dart at him, temporarily disorientating him and allowing Sly and Bentley to flee. However, just before reaching their ship, Dr. M appears with a giant mutant thing under his control. and grabs Bentley. To save his friend, Sly throws his family cane into the monster's mouth. This causes the monster to release Bentley. However, the monster soon launches the cane into the sea, where it may be lost forever, and then grabs Sly.
Sly! No! Hold on, Sly! Hold on!
It was like they always say, your life really does flash before your eyes. There it all was, stretching back to his childhood. Born into a family of master thieves that went back for generations, Sly was next in line to continue the Cooper name. But fate had different plans. Sly was robbed of his childhood when a ruthless gang attacked his family home. The orphanage he landed in wasn't all bad. It was there he met his lifelong friends. Bentley, he's always been the thinker, and Murray, he's the doer. They've stuck together over the years, and their skill, their confidence, and their thieving reputation grew stronger with each heist. They thought that good times would never end, and that their luck would never run out, which only made things tougher when the odds finally caught up with them. Then Sly met this guy, McSweeney, who claimed to have run with his father's crew back in their heyday. They pulled jobs all over the world and amassed quite a collection of priceless items. It was then that McSweeney told Sly all about the Cooper Vault. It seemed that Sly's father, like all his ancestors, had been hiding their wealth in a secret place for generations, each one adding to the treasure hidden behind a door that, if McSweeney's story is true, only a Cooper can open. Using some well-placed clues provided by McSweeney, Sly and Bentley set out for the secret island that held the vault. On arriving, they discovered someone by the name of Dr. M had already set up shop. From the looks of it, he'd been trying to crack that thing for years, growing steadily more frustrated in his failures and more paranoid as the decades rolled by. He had built himself a fortress with security as tight as Fort Knox. Getting inside the place would take precision, creativity, and moreover, it would take an army of world-class thieves. Finding and bringing together that much talent won't be easy, but to get inside the Cooper Vault and collect his inheritance, Sly was willing to pay the price.
Juice! Who's got the juice?
After completing the prologue, the game will take you to the hazard room, and I have no idea why the developers felt like this had to be included. The hazard room is a dedicated tutorial, and it is an absolute waste of time. The game already does a fantastic job of teaching the player the controls while playing through the prologue and in subsequent episodes. I genuinely do not understand why this is here. And don't say, oh, it's because it's a kid's game. Yeah, well, so were the last two, but I don't remember them being patronising. This is such an unnecessary blemish on the game. It is tedious and it messes with the pacing of the story. Fortunately, these segments can just be skipped. After the completion of each episode, you'll be taken to the episode select screen, and I must say that this seems like a bit of a downgrade from the second game. It's just not as visually appealing. Sly 3's graphics design is a bit of a mixed bag, not that any of it is bad, but some of it is a downgrade. That's what I mean by that. The visualization for completing jobs aren't as dynamic, but the 2D cutscenes are definitely an improvement. The animations are more consistent and the characters are less prone to being off-model. Plus, there are just some really cool shots. Getting inside a world-class vault would take a team of world-class thieves, a group of specialists, each member contributing their own particular talent. It was clear that the gang needed Murray back. Not only was Sly missing a lifelong friend, but his brute strength helped to get them out of more than a few scraps in the past. When Bentley was injured during the whole clockwork affair, Murray blamed himself, eventually leaving the team. They tried to console him, but going out on his own was something he needed to do. He said he wanted to find his spiritual centre. They got word that Murray ended up in the Australian outback, where he studied a mystic art called the Dreamtime from an Aboriginal guru. From all accounts, things went pretty well, and his teacher even sent him walkabout to locations all over the globe to complete the training. Latest reports had cited Murray in beautiful Venice, Italy, but what he's doing there is a mystery. Sly just hopes he steers clear of the local mob boss Octavio. Growing up, this guy used to be a real celebrity in the neighbourhood. Everyone loved to hear him sing opera and said he was destined to be the next great tenor. But just as his career started to take off, musical tastes changed. Suddenly it was all about rock music, and no one wanted to listen to opera anymore. He held on to a few fans, and it was these mobsters that took him into the business. Heading onto this guy's turf was dangerous, but worth it for a chance to make things right with Murray.
Sly Cooper and the gang in Opera of Fear.
The first episode takes place in Venice, Italy. That's right, Assassin's Creed 2. Sly did it first.
I wish you great success and hope you enjoy Venezia as much as she enjoys having you.
The core gameplay structure of Sly 3 is nearly identical to that of Sly 2. The hub world acts as a platforming playground where you can freely explore to your heart's content. Unfortunately, unlike in Sly 2, there isn't much to find in the hub worlds. The iconic green clue bottles have vanished, leaving nothing in their place. They are not in the hub worlds, nor are they in the mission levels. To some, this may be a godsend, as it can be tedious trying to find them all, especially when the last one is in plain sight the entire time but you keep running past it because you're legally blind. That can be annoying. But I personally enjoyed jumping around the world looking for clues in every nook and cranny. Even though the clues never awarded anything that I'd use much, it was still really satisfying to get 100% completion. But one thing that has remained the same is all of the missions, or as they are known in the Sly series, jobs are accessed via the hub world. There will be a little hologram icon of the character that needs to start the job. Bentley figures that the best place to start their search for Murray is the police headquarters. The police may have already caught him, or at the very least be aware of his presence in Venice. The police headquarters is quite a large and elaborate building, which makes it a great landmark to keep your bearings when moving around. This game does a great job of making the levels feel large without having a lot of unnecessary space. Platforming through the areas a few times is enough for you to get the lay of the land. The developers are obviously aware of this, as they do not include a minimap, as it's not needed at all. The Sly series may not have the biggest hub worlds, but they are some of the best in terms of layout and design. After crawling into the police station, Sly makes his way through the ventilation system to the room with the holding cell. Sly calls out for his friend, but instead of Murray being there, it is the character with one of the best theme songs ever, Dimitri! Dimitri would rather see Sly get arrested than tell him where Murray is, and starts to yell out to the cops nearby.
God! Policia!
Wait!
This is where we are introduced to one of the new gameplay mechanics of Sly 3, the conversation system. During some parts of the game, most notably during negotiations with other characters, you'll be given a speech bubble and a dialogue tree. You must select the option in the dialogue tree that resolves the current problem the best. Failing a conversation usually just means you get to choose from other available options, but there are a few exceptions. Now, this isn't dialogue choices like in Mass Effect or other games along that realm. There is one answer that the game is looking for, and that is the only one that would advance the story. So there are no branching paths or anything like that. This may appear to be a pointless system, but the game is more concerned with testing the player's comprehension of what is going on in the story. It's asking if you know enough about the characters to tell them what they want to hear. Pay attention. You need to pay attention. When talking with Dimitri, you can cycle through all of his dialogue without consequence, and I often do, just because he's such a fun character to talk to. He has the best lines.
Don't even try to understand the silky enigma of Dimitri.
To calm Dimitri down, Sly explains that if he is also arrested, no one will be there to bail Dimitri out. Dimitri responds that even if Sly does manage to open the cell door, he'll be caught on the way out and face harsher punishments for attempting to escape. Dimitri has a point. Sly eventually devises a plan. He'll distract the cops, and while they are all focused on him, Dimitri can simply walk out the door. Dimitri likes this idea, seeing it as an indirect act of vengeance. The cell key is kept in the head cop's office, so Sly quietly crawls his way to the head's office, who is none other than Carmelita Fox. Carmelita is giving a presentation to a group of mercenaries about the city's tar pollution. They know Octavio is responsible, but they lack direct evidence to make the arrest. After stealing the key, the lights begin having electrical problems and start flickering on and off. Sly hides under the tables in the room when the lights flicker on to avoid being seen and unlocks the cell door. The cell, however, has another lock, a dial. To get it open, you must slowly rotate the analog stick and wait until you feel the controller vibrate. When it does, rotate the opposite direction. The lock will be reset if you rotate too far. Once he was out, Dimitri told Sly that Murray would be waiting at Rialto Bridge.
Hello, assorted meatheads. And lady. Anyone feel like some exercise?
Cooper! Grab him, man!
And I'm out.
Carmelita chases Sly outside.
You've got some serious nerve showing up in my squad room.
I was concerned we were growing apart.
Then let's spend some quality time together in my interrogation cell.
So forward. What happened to the demure girl I used to know?
She grew up and stopped taking grief from guys like you.
Guys like me? Are you saying I've got some competition for your affections?
You're the only man in my sights right now.
Carmelita chases Sly as he jumps and runs across gondolas. He eventually makes his way to Rialto Bridge, where Murray is waiting. To lose the inspector, Sly and Murray jump into a manhole and shelter in the sewers, later emerging from one nearby. Sly tells Murray that he and Bentley needed him back on the team, and that Bentley doesn't blame Murray for him being in a wheelchair. Murray refuses, saying that the guru told him to lose himself, and not to return until the black water ran pure. So in order to get the Murray back on the team, Sly and Bentley will need to find a way to take out Octavio, who has been pumping tar into the waterway, but it seems the police are having trouble getting evidence of Octavio's tar scheme. With Sly's stealth skills, he sets out to snap some photos catching Octavio in the act. Hopefully with them, the cops will be able to prosecute him and put an end to his operation. Octavio comes into sight and begins pumping tar into a nearby fountain. Sly takes some photos and continues to tail him through the streets. Sly eventually catches him pumping tar into a fish tank, killing all of the fish inside. After gathering enough evidence, Bentley tells Sly to follow him a little longer to see what other heinous crimes he might get up to. Octavio makes his way to a large Ferris wheel. After getting on, he makes a phone call. Sly hangs onto the side of the seat and eavesdrops on the conversation. The person on the other end of the line is the builder of the Ferris wheel. The wheel has actually been used to pump the tar, but Octavio is still unsure if it will be enough to get things ready for his opera recital. The builder reassures him that it will be. Octavio hangs up and goes about his business, allowing Sly to crack into the Ferris wheel's control panel. Bentley soon arrives and rewires the engine, forcing it to speed up. The wheel spins off out of control, destroying a massive pump. After the completion of certain jobs, you will be returned back to the safe house. It works exactly the same as in Sly 2. From here, you can access the Thief Net to buy upgrades and switch between characters. One improvement made to the safe house is the ability to be able to see which characters have a job available without having to exit out into the hub world. A little hologram icon will be displayed above that character's head. Such a simple little quality of life improvement, but it does completely remove that little frustration that you would get in Sly 2, when you would pick a character and not realize that they didn't have anything to do until after loading into the hub world. To find out exactly what Octavio is trying to gain from this whole tar scheme, Sly and Bentley are going to break into Octavio's base of operations, the Opera House. They can't just go in the front door, so they enter through a hatch at the side of the building. And this is the first 3D section in the game that I did not play in 3D. At least not this time. In the original PS2 version of the game, each copy would come with a pair of 3D glasses. They were just cardboard, but they were made to look like Sly's eye covering. I remember using them as a kid and they were okay, but 3D has never really been that good, to be honest. Certain objects in the levels were only visible with the glasses on or something. I can't really remember. It's just a gimmick and it's completely optional. I usually would opt out, but I actually don't think 3D is an option in the version I played for this video. Sly and Bentley arrive at a door that can only be opened if both switches are pressed simultaneously. Bentley will perform a countdown in order to ensure proper timing. They eventually end up in a sewer section. Sly is easily able to climb and jump past all of the obstacles using the circle button, aka the do everything button, to create a way for Bentley to cross the water, because he is a turtle and turtles are known for not being able to swim. Actually, Bentley is more of a tortoise, and a lot of tortoises cannot swim. And it's kind of scary that most people don't know that. Just imagine how many people take a tortoise to the water thinking they're helping them and they just drown. Now that I think about it, raccoons are pretty alright swimmers, and so are hippos, yet all 3 gang members take damage when they fall in water. Sly and Bentley finally make it to the control room, where Bentley begins to hack into an old computer, triggering the security switch. Octavio's reinforcements begin to arrive in the room. Sly easily dispatches them by striking them with his cane into the fire. Fun for the kids. Once Bentley is done, he and Sly make a quick escape. Thanks to Bentley's hacking skills, they now have information about Octavio's schemes. Before Bentley has time to formulate a plan from this newly acquired information, by monitoring local communications, he gets word that Octavio has hired some thugs to attack Carmelita while she is out on her daily patrols. Sly, very worried for Carmelita's safety, rushes to the canal where Bentley has hotwired one of the police boats. The boat is surprisingly fast, and there are obstacles all through the canal you need to avoid or destroy using the turret mounted to the boat. And yes, the boat can jump. Don't ask me how that works. You need to destroy Carmelita's pursuers before they reach her. While the turret does have infinite ammo, it will overheat if fired too frequently. This is quite a fun little minigame and actually works as a small tutorial that will help you with another mission later on in the episode.
I hope you realize that by saving Carmelita, we're only making our operation here more difficult.
Maybe so, but what's the fun in stealing if there's nobody trying to catch you? Besides, she's helped us out in the past.
That, and you've got a thing for her.
And I've got a thing for her. Look, I'll stash this boat. It might be useful for later. You stay out of trouble.
So according to the decrypted files, Octavio was pumping tar from underneath the fountains of the buildings so he can sink them into the canals on a whim. He's going to demonstrate this destructible ability to people of Venice during his opera recital on the first day of Carnival. To counter this threat, the gang will first need to destroy the balloons and sign advertising the recital. If no one shows up, he'll have no reason to sink a building. Next, the blueprints to the main tar vacuum have been cleverly split into 3 parts and hidden in local coffee houses owned by Octavio. Unfortunately, they're under constant guard, so Sly will need to use a disguise to get inside. Also, some big Vincennetti goons have been called on as insurance for the recital. The Cooper gang needs to find a way to get rid of them, and who better to help than Carmelita and her paralyzing pistol. Bentley leads a member of the Vincennetti gang to the police station. Meanwhile, Sly knocks on the front door of the station and insults the cops inside, using his terrible Italian accent.
Hey, all you fake cops, go home. We don't need no more stupid thugs in Venezia.
Lieutenant Gonk comes out and starts attacking the goon, but gets in trouble. Carmelita quickly emerges to help with her pistol in hand, and that pistol packs quite a punch. It is the most powerful attack in the game. She can one-shot most enemies. For the second time in the series, we get to take control of Inspector Fox. This time we get to freely move around in a third-person view, firing her pistol. Aiming is extremely easy. To hit an enemy, you just need to make sure it's within the giant square reticle. Even if they are only slightly within the sights, the shot will hone in on the enemy. Carmelita will naturally strafe, which is great when aiming at enemies, but does feel a bit awkward when you're just trying to run around. She is the exact opposite playstyle of Sly. She is loud and can just destroy everybody. Carmelita and her lieutenant take out the entire Vincennetti gang, making one less obstacle for the Cooper gang. Near the canal, Bentley and Murray have arranged to meet. Bentley tells Murray that he must destroy the tar drums around the city in order to make the black water run pure. Murray says he's given up his violent ways and is now committed to a peaceful existence. Bentley encourages him to help, the strong, outstanding hero he used to be. Murray says he's sorry for what happened with Clockler and that he tried his hardest to save Bentley, but ultimately he wasn't strong enough. Bentley tells him to get over it, adding that he's never blamed him for the wheelchair. The only thing he really wants is his friend back. To destroy the drums, Murray will need to use his new move, the Aboriginal ball form. Murray will roll up into a ball, and you need to time his jumps, so as soon as he hits the ground, you hit the jump button again. This will allow him to maintain higher bounces. The force of when he lands can take out enemies and destroy objects. Unfortunately, in the HD version, they significantly reduced the amount of height that Murray can reach. I have no idea why. Maybe it was just too fun. Once all of the tar drums are out of the picture, Sly and Bentley need to destroy the 2 balloons advertising Octavio's recital. Without the advertisements, no one will show up to watch him perform. Bentley takes over a fireworks stand. He has some bombs that Sly must take to the designated spots before the fuses run out, and the bomb explodes. Because Sly can't just light the fuse when he gets here. Lighters are dangerous, he might burn himself. Just like in the second game, Sly can be in two states, low profile and high profile. When in low profile, he'll move slowly but quietly, so he can approach enemies without them noticing. In high profile, he'll break out into a fast sprint, but the sound will alert nearby guards. One of the balloons gets caught on Octavio's garish sign, so Sly climbs his way up to break it loose. Meanwhile, back at the fireworks stand, Octavio breaks in and grabs Bentley. Octavio reveals that his mole in the police headquarters picked up Sly's pictures of him polluting Venice's water supply before the real cops saw them. Sly chases Octavio across town until they reach the opera house, at which point Octavio surrenders Bentley and flees into the building.
You okay, Bentley?
I'm fine. My ego's bruised, but it'll heal.
The preparations for the operation are almost complete. The last thing they need to do is steal the 3 blueprints for the main tar vacuum. They are hidden at 3 different coffee shops around the city, and each location has a guard stationed at the door. Sly has to don a Venice disguise and pretend to take the shift of each guard at the front door of each coffee house, so that Bentley can head inside and steal the blueprints. In Sly 3, Sly is now a master of disguise. At first this seemed kinda random, cause since when was Sly that reliant on disguises? He did wear one in India when the gang stole the Clockwork Wings, and he also donned one in Canada when trying to cheat at the Lumberjack games. But that's kind of it. Maybe it was just what Sly decided to specialize in, and that seems to be the case because they are used a lot more in Sly 3. Disguise is a new power-up that Sly can use out in the hub world and will also need to be used for a few jobs. In Venice, Sly will wear the attire of a Venetian cane corso guard, complete with a fancy purple and gold tailcoat and a bird mask. Whenever in disguise, Sly's movements are limited to walking in a very short jump. If Sly gets within a guard's line of sight, he will be asked to stop and provide one of several specific passwords. When this happens, Bentley will feed Sly the code via radio, consisting of a combination of the 4 face button icons. Sly is then required to input the password within a few seconds. If it is entered correctly and quickly, the guard will recognize Sly as one of their own. If Sly says the wrong word at any point or takes too long to give the password, the guard will expose Sly as a fake and attack him, forcing Sly to revert to his thief getup. If caught, Sly cannot attempt to fool any more guards until he either takes out all the guards or until he loses them. It's funny how Sly just doesn't really look the part like at all, and his accent is terrible.
Guess that you really like her cooking.
Mamma mia, I want to be buried in her sauce. It's heaven.
I can't believe that worked! You've got the worst Italian accent I've ever heard!
But that is just part of the joke. I'm really glad that the developers decided to expand on Sly's dressing up and hiding in plain sight to infiltrate the villain's turf. It allows Sly to actually have more interactions with villains and enemies. It helps to really flesh out the worlds and their inhabitants. And it's just fun to see the little interactions. When inside the coffee shops, there will be paintings on the wall with a code hidden within the picture. They are easy as hell once you know where the code is. It's the same for every playthrough, but I always really loved these as a kid. After collecting all 3 blueprints, Sly and Bentley are ready to execute Operation Tar Be Gone. The objective, get Murray back on the team. Sly starts things off by using a disguise to sneak into the opera house. He makes his way to the pump room and lets Bentley in through the side entrance. Thanks to the blueprints they stole, Bentley knows just where to bomb to cripple the machinery. Then they go for Octavio's detonation switch. Bentley distracts the old mobster with the opera jewel, and it's just as great as it sounds.
La 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 la.
La, la, la.
You have one of the worst voices I've ever heard, truthfully. It is absolutely terrible. You can't sing.
Sly hops onto the top of the stage, ready to cut the ropes to the chandelier to drop it on Octavio's head. To get Bentley to sing, you just need to press the correct face button at the right time. It's pretty much just the same minigame as the ballroom dance in Sly 2. Octavio draws closer and closer to Bentley throughout the recital, readying to finish him off. Once the recital ends and right as Sly cuts the final rope, Carmelita crashes the party and shoots and destroys the chandelier before it hits Octavio. One of Octavio's men arrives in a boat and Octavio jumps in, still in possession of the detonation switch. Sly and Bentley hop into the police boat they used earlier and chase after them. It's a harder version of the boat chase that happened earlier in the level. It's great that the first boat chase acted as a sort of tutorial of this one. That way the build up to the climax can be maintained without the game having to interrupt you by teaching you how to do this segment. Bentley manages to shoot out the engine and they swerve out of control. Their boat jumps the curve and crashes into the stage. With Octavio beat, Sly bargains with him saying that they would ditch the cots together if he gives up the detonation switch. Murray is watching from the nearby rooftop. Octavio refuses and blows up a building at the edge of town. He then approaches Bentley and knocks him out of his wheelchair. Sly asks Murray for help as he has never seen anyone move that fast. Murray is still reluctant, due to the promise he made to his guru. Sly tells him the water will clear up any minute, and insists that they both take Octavio out.
You're right to be scared, Hippo. Your wheelchair friend should have been so smart.
Murray! Help!
That does it! I'll floss my teeth with your spine!
During the boss fight, Sly will open up valves to let Tar run out onto the ground. This will slow Octavio down enough so Murray can punch him. Episode 1 plays out in a very similar way to those in Sly 2. However, this first episode acts as a sort of send-off for the old Cooper gang. This is their final operation that will involve only the original members. Murray finally knocks out Octavio, who then passes out.
The old guard's out, and a new generation steps in. That's right! Stepping in! Big time!
With the fight over, Sly and Murray went back and scraped Bentley off the pavement. It was touch and go for a while there, but they managed to sneak out right under Carmelita's nose. Octavio wasn't so lucky. The guy got 30 years behind bars for what he did to Venice. Italians don't like it when you sink their landmarks. Ironically, he found success as a singer while in jail. After all, most of his old fanbase was already in the clink. But the big score here was bringing their old pal back into the game. Once he put on those gloves and that mask, it was clear to everyone, most of all him, that the Murray had returned. At first, it seemed just like old times. The gang was back in action. But little by little, they learned that Murray's heart just wasn't in it. Without the guru's permission to give up on his Dreamtime training, he'd never really felt comfortable returning to the gang. They knew they needed to help him out. So the gang packed up their things, whipped up some quick disguises, and headed for the Australian outback. Along the way, Murray told them story after story about his teacher's amazing abilities. Apparently, this guru of his was capable of fantastic feats. He used the Dreamtime to blend perfectly into his surroundings and even gained mental control over the weak-minded. If even half the stories were true, then this was a guy Sly just had to meet. The gang needed to grow its ranks for a chance to get inside the Cooper Vault. And this guru, this outback mystic, was looking like the best recruit they could have ever asked for. However, when they finally arrived in the outback, Murray was shocked to find that things had changed, and the guru was nowhere to be seen.
Sly Cooper and the gang in Rumble Down Under.
This episode is often considered to be one of the worst in the entire series, and in a lot of ways I kind of agree, even though there are a few things that I really like about it. The Rumble Down Under has the habit of being almost too magical, but we'll get more into that when it comes up. The enemies wandering around the hub world are actually miners and have been tearing the place apart. The guru spends most of his time in a small cave looking over the valley. When Sly makes it up to the cave, the guru isn't there, so he heads over to the guru's hut. Miners have left wall hooks that Sly can use to easily climb up. When using wall hooks, you must have Sly lean back for him to gain any height from them. They all seem to have preset heights that they will reach, so you don't have to worry about over or undershooting the jumps. But when he arrives, he sees that it's been ransacked and the guru has been taken prisoner. Sly makes his way up to the stockade and finally found the guru. Man, I see guru so many times. He explained to the guru, He explained to the guru that Murray was looking to be released from his training so he can return to the gang. Sly insisted on busting him out, but the guru refused to leave without his walking stick and moonstone. He also wanted to meet with both Bentley and Murray individually before he would escape imprisonment. This is gonna sound really dumb, but as a kid I did not realize that the guru was a koala. I just thought he was some purple ape thing. I don't know why it never clicked in my brain that he is a koala. I mean, I'd been to Australia multiple times at this point. I'd held a koala. There is something seriously wrong with my brain. Moving on. Because of Murray's limited jumping capabilities, he needs to make his way through one of the mines in order to get up to the stockade. Murray is of course the brawn of the gang. He is still the best at taking out enemies and can even pick up objects and guards and throw them. This is also how Murray can pickpocket them. Well, I guess it's not really pickpocketing, it's more like a shakedown. But you get what I mean. Bentley is able to do the same by using a magnet on the end of a rod. You still need to make sure to sneak up behind the guards, as it is impossible to pickpocket them when they are on high alert. Guards carrying valuables in their pockets will have a glow emanating from them. When you steal a high value item, you no longer need to return to the safe house to sell it on a thief net, as you will automatically receive the coins as soon as you steal it. While it's convenient to always know exactly how much money you have, I do miss the satisfaction of saving up all this loot and selling it all at once. On the way through the cave, Murray comes across a kangaroo miner wearing a mask, and this is where the weird magical elements start to amp up. The Mask of Dark Earth, believe it or not, is the main big baddie of this episode. I think the lack of a big personality villain is another weakness of this episode. Most episodes are defined by the main villain, and this one is just an evil mask that floats around. It has no distinct personality, we just know it's evil because the game says it is. The mask attaches itself to other entities and makes them larger and more aggressive. Murray takes out the kangaroo guy and the drill by throwing him into it. However, the mask is able to escape.
That mask can run! Mine can't do that.
When Murray makes it through the cave, there is a jump pad blocking the exit. By forcing his way through, there is now an easy way to get up to the stockade. Murray approaches the stockade to speak to his guru. He tells him he wants to be released from training and join back up with the gang. He also tells them they want him to join as well. He then promises him that he will help him escape and drive out the miners. To try and get rid of the miners out of Ayers Rock, Sly and Murray commandeer a big truck. They use it to catch some giant scorpions. I never liked this mission. In fact, there are a few missions in this episode that really drag it down for me. And they are all missions that divert from the core gameplay mechanics. To catch the scorpions, the truck needs to be flipped over on top of them. There is a bit of time pressure as you need to catch 20 before the truck tires get too hot. Water and running over blue scorpions will help keep them cool. The truck's controls are okay, but it does feel like it lacks weight. The Sly series has always had an issue with vehicles being floaty, and unfortunately the developers were never able to fix this issue.
Great job, Murray. Now back that truck full of scorpions up to the mine entrance and deliver that not-so-friendly payload.
No! Giant scorpions? Run for it, mates! Uh-oh!
The guru has been left powerless since the miners have confiscated his walking staff and moonstone. Sly suspects that they are being stored in a cave where lots of miners have been seen coming in and out of. Using extensive use of the ninja spire jump and rail slide techniques, Sly is able to break into the safe holding the walking stick and the safe holding the moonstone. I've always loved the lighting effect on the moonstone. It looks both pretty and mystical. It also looks like it would taste nice. Bentley heads over to the guru's stockade to give him his walking staff and moonstone. The guru uses his staff to turn into an environmental object. This catches the guard's attention and causes him to hop inside the stockade to investigate. Once his back is turned, the guru hops onto him and controls his mind and rams him into the gate. The guru's basic controls are the same as the rest of the gang's. He can run, jump, and double jump. However, he is unable to attack or pickpocket enemies. He is an expert in the mystical art known as Dreamtime. One of his techniques also allows him to morph into common objects in order to blend in with his surroundings and avoid detection from enemies. The objects he turns into vary depending on the level. The guru's most notable ability is the power of hypnosis, as seen when he controls the enemy by mounting himself onto their back. Using this ability as a guru, we must find 4 guards and ram them into drills. When on the backs of enemies, they will always be running forward, so it pays to know where you are going beforehand, as hitting anything will cause the guru to jump off. Once all 4 drills are down, he heads over to Wave Rock to destroy a giant grinder that is tearing up the rock. The generator linked to the machine is weak and can be destroyed pretty easily. The Guru rams 3 guards into the machine, making it explode and causing an electric bolt to run up the wire to the grinder and blow it up. The Guru is the first new member to join the team. As per the deal, the gang still needs to find a way to rid his homeland of the miners and deal with the Mask of Dark Earth. First, they enlist the aid of some local wildlife to help thin out the miners' ranks. As Murray, we must feed miners to the local giant crocodile, which is kind of morbid if you really think about it. That's why you shouldn't think. After feeding him enough, he takes a liking to the taste of miners and will start to chow down on them left and right. The second step is to hit up the local lemonade bar. If the gang can clear it out, it will surely hurt the miners' morale. This job is definitely one of the highlights of the entire game.
Listen up, dirtbags. Time to clear out. From now on, this bar is Cooper Gang turf.
Tough talk, wagger. But you ain't got no respect with us. We here are known around these parts for our drinking skills. And this just happens to be a lemonade bar.
Sly, I'm not sure this is such a good idea.
If a lemonade drinking challenge is what you had in mind, then the 3 of us will take on the best 3 lemonade drinkers you got.
Fair dinkum. Losers have to clear out.
In order to drink the lemonade, you just need to press any of the face buttons as quickly as possible. During this minigame, the speed of which a character can drink is actually more dependent on the character than how fast you can mash, as obviously Murray can drink a lot faster by default than Bentley is able to.
We win.
That's cheating. Why, the turtle spilled more than he drank. Round here, there's only one thing we do with cheaters. Turn on the fence, Bruce. It's time we gave these cheaters a beating.
Aussies. No surprises there.
Combat hasn't really changed much from the second game. The characters still have a health meter that goes down when a character takes a hit or misses a jump. When fighting, Sly will use his cane, and it has some new attacks that can be charged up. There are 3 levels of this attack, and it is really hard to tell the damage difference between the 3. They honestly feel a bit redundant. Oftentimes when fighting, the best thing to do is to try and hit enemies into environmental hazards.
Finally, that guy was the mask. It's getting away?
We might have cleared out this bar, but that mask is sure to keep making trouble for us. We need to destroy it.
For the final preparations, Sly uses some mining equipment to drill for radioactive oil deep beneath the dried lake bed. Another job that I really don't like because it strays too far away from the core mechanics. Most of the time is spent waiting for the enemies to appear so you can throw them into the fence. Boring. Definitely a lowlight of the game. This episode is just filled with ups and downs.
The pressure differential should draw the deep uranium-enriched glowing oil to the surface. We'll need to be extremely careful in retrieving a small sample.
Fly, look at me! I'm glowing! Woo!
With all the preparations complete, the gang is ready to take on Operation Moon Crash. First, the helicopter needs to be eliminated. While it refuels, it is the Guru's job to destroy it. The helicopter has a sensor that can pick up the Guru's moonstone, which could have led to his capture in the first place. The helicopter will fly up if he is discovered, putting it out of reach. In order to pull off this task, the Guru needs to point the guards in its direction before jumping off their backs. The helicopter crashes after getting rammed by 3 guards, killing everyone inside. Okay, there was no one inside. I mean, is it really any more morbid than the alligator? Crocodile, sorry. According to Aboriginal folklore, the Mask of Dark Earth is the sworn enemy of the moon spirit. So given Murray's moon shape, the glowing oil should trick the mask. Murray is poised to destroy the mask by dropping from a crane after being covered in radioactive oil.
Behold! The moon spirit rises!
Unfortunately, Carmelita has discovered the gang's whereabouts and is currently patrolling the area in search of them. The gang needs to keep their distance from her and to keep an eye out for the mask, as they can't postpone the heist. The mask is creeping closer, and the Guru then signals to Murray, who sees the flashlight dingo in the mask. When the dingo approaches, Murray jumps from the crane and crushes it. Once again, the mask miraculously survives destruction, and then everything quickly goes downhill as it becomes attached to Carmelita.
Cooper! Thought I'd find you here.
Carmelita, you've got a little something on your face.
It's not nice to make fun of a girl's looks.
Maybe I should smash you!
Bentley shoots Carmelita with 5 sleep darts to try and sedate her as she chases Sly throughout the level. However, the darts' chemicals appear to react with the mask, increasing her size even further. Sly watches in disbelief as she quickly grows to monstrous proportions. You just know, somewhere out there, someone is getting off on this. The group piles into the big truck in the hopes of putting some distance between themselves and her. She follows them as they drive back to Ayers Rock. After arriving, she runs after them while carrying a rig of explosives. To get her to back off, Sly must once again deploy the claw to keep the bombs from exploding on the truck. The group tries to outrun her, but she is too huge for that, so they have to try something else. They need a plan on how to approach Carmelita's face and remove the mask.
Pry off that mask of dark earth and maybe we'll get back the Carmelita we all know and love.
I do not love her!
Okay, not the point. It's all about taking off that mask. We gotta find a way up there.
You're the climber, and I'm sure you've always wanted to get closer to her. Can't get much closer than climbing up her bootlaces.
That's not a crazy idea.
Sly then ascends up Carmelita. You just know that somewhere out there, someone is getting off on this. There is one hook on each side that secures the mask. The Sly series has always had supernatural elements to it, like ghosts and stuff like that, but this whole mask fiasco feels like it's taking it a little bit too far. I know it sounds weird saying that about a world filled with anthropomorphic animals, but it doesn't really fit into the pre-established rules of this universe. It also doesn't help that this episode doesn't really add much to the overall plot, aside from recruiting the guru. None of the gang members ever bring it up again, and Carmelita doesn't remember Sly saving her, so it doesn't forward their relationship either. Carmelita swats at Sly and breaks the hooks when he is hanging from them. The mask comes off and Carmelita returns to her normal size. Her mercenaries congregate around the mask firing at it, and eventually cause it to explode. Carmelita just lay there, unconscious, helpless on the desert floor. Being gentlemen, the gang kept watch over her throughout the night. Her camera proved to be a real source of entertainment as they took turns posing. They didn't want her to go home empty-handed. Morning broke and they got a clear view of the landscape. It was beautiful, empty of the miners that had been digging and drilling into the sacred place. The moment was broken as Carmelita began to stir, and they prepared for another quick exit. Only this time, it wasn't just the 3 of them. For the first time in Cooper Gang history, they picked up a new member, and the team would never be the same. Bentley was obsessed. Every night he'd pore over the blueprints to Dr. M's fortress, looking for a way to get into the Cooper Vault. He soon came to the conclusion that there was no way inside unless the game picked up a dedicated RC specialist, an expert who had mechanical and piloting skills far exceeding his own. After weeks of searching techie chat rooms, he finally found someone who could keep up with him intellectually, a gearhead genius out of Holland named Penelope. She politely declined the invitation to join the team, saying she only works for the best. Apparently her idea of the best was her boss, the Black Baron, a big-time dogfighting champ up there in Holland. He's so good that he's even set up an international competition called Aces to attract worthy opponents. A few days later, she sent a counter-offer. If the gang could manage to beat the Black Baron at his own game, then she'd know that they weren't just a pack of jokers and therefore worth her time. So they got busy. With no time to lose, Bentley and Murray worked to put a plane together, while Sly got his pilot's license the fastest way possible. They'd prove to this Penelope that the Cooper gang was up for the challenge, even if they were making it all up as they went along.
Sly Cooper and the gang in Flight of Fancy.
Episode 3 uses a lot more of the new dialogue mechanic, as whenever the gang is in the hotel lobby, they will be in disguise and conversing with the other pilots. And there are also a couple of familiar faces here. Both Mugshot from Sly 1 and Dimitri from Sly 2 are here for the competition. It's really cool that they managed to find a way to reuse these characters, because they are both real highlights from their respective games. The Cooper gang's chances of winning the competition would improve if they had a better understanding of the other teams. In the past, before dogfights, teams would sabotage each other's planes. The secret location of the flight roster was implemented to prevent any future mishaps. However, the flight roster was not kept from the event staff. Dimitri, who was hired to provide colourful commentary during the dogfights, likely knows of the whereabouts of the roster. In the hotel lobby, Sly locates Dimitri and questions him to try and get him to divulge the roster's location. Dimitri, however, remains silent for fear of being ousted to the Black Baron and losing his job. Sly gives him some words of encouragement, telling him that a man with his superior fashion sense could take on the Black Baron. This restores Dimitri's confidence in his ability to outwit the Baron. He will tell Sly where the roster is if he agrees to owe him a favour. And this is no small time favour like,
will you water my fish or feed my plant? No way, bro! This old school mafia blood pack favor, like movies, big time.
After Sly accepts the deal, Dimitri instructs him to find the safe in the Baron's ear hanger by looking behind one of the paintings. The Black Baron then walks into the hotel lobby to greet the pilots participating in this year's Aces competition. He then brought up the antics of the previous teams and made it clear he would no longer put up with it. He went over the hotel's policies, including what would happen if you were to sneak out of the building after dark.
If my guards catch you outside, you will be beaten to within an inch of your life. No exceptions! This will be a fair competition!
Sly removes his disguise and climbs the hill to the Baron's castle. With the drawbridge raised, Sly has to use his climbing skills to ascend to the control panel. Sly overheard the Black Baron contemplating how much harder the competition had gotten, and how he might not win this time. When Sly makes it to the top, Bentley is waiting at the bottom to have him lower the drawbridge. There is no switch, however there is a catapult. Sly knocks it down so Bentley can use it to springboard his way up. Sly then returns to the safe house while Bentley finishes up inside the Baron's hangar. In Sly 3 there are a lot more jobs where you'll be switching between multiple characters. In the last game this was mostly only reserved for the final heists of each episode. I'm really glad they decided to double down on this feature, as it was really underutilized in Sly 2. Unfortunately there's still the issue of having to start each job as a certain character, even though the game is clearly capable of being able to switch between characters on the fly. After unlocking a second painting, Bentley finds the roster inside and takes it with him back to the safe house. According to the Aces flight lineup, the gang will be flying against Team Iceland and Team Belgium in tomorrow's semi-final round. Unfortunately, they only have a single plane, while the opponents will be flying 15 apiece. That's 30-1 odds. In order to give them a fighting chance, they'll need to pit these two teams against each other. First, Murray and Sly paddle through the sewers beneath town to get access to the air vent leading into Team Iceland's hotel room. To row you have to tap the X button. You'd think there would be some sort of rhythm to it, but no, you can just tap it as fast as you want. The boat can build up quite a bit of speed. Turning can be a bit finicky, but it isn't all that bad. Once Sly is inside, he must make his way quietly through the hotel room, making sure not to trigger any of the makeshift alarms placed all around. He steals one of the Iceland's trademark Viking helmets. Then Murray heads over to Team Belgium's hangar. He vandalizes one of the aircrafts and plants the helmet in order to frame Team Iceland for the damage. Next, the whole gang works together to plant one of Team Belgium's gold-laced monogrammed handkerchiefs in an armoured truck, housing Team Iceland's lucky ice sculpture. Bentley pickpockets the handkerchief with the help of Murray. And Sly is able to swap it out with the ice sculpture, thanks to the newest team member, the Guru, being able to burst open the armoured van, effectively framing Team Belgium for the theft. Sly 3 does its best to utilise the different gang members into the missions. Many people find this a downside, and I do see where this criticism comes from, as Sly does end up taking a bit of a backseat, but that is kind of the point. Narratively anyway. Bentley and Murray are preparing for the Aces semi-finals by setting up security in the Cooper hangar, when Mugshot barges in.
Greetings, troglodytes! Didn't think I forgot about Mace's City, did you?
Murray fights with Mugshot's guards and uses a switch to hit Mugshot with an engine, forcing him to retreat. Bentley activates the security system to stop more guards from entering. It's a remake of the minigame seen in the crypts of Sly 2. You just have to activate the traps at the right time. He calls Penelope for backup and she uses her RC chopper to defend the hangar. Her RC Chopper gameplay is pretty much the same as Bentley's in Sly 2. I know I keep saying it's the same as in Sly 2, but you get what I mean. After the attack, they thank Penelope and continue with their preparations for the Aces semi-finals. Now it's time for some flying. And I hate it. No, I'm kidding. It's okay, but only okay. Sly 3 has so many different gameplay types that none of them end up being particularly compelling, apart from the platforming, which as always is just perfection. Despite Bentley explaining during the mission briefing that the odds are 30 to 1, it is actually 25 to 1, because there are only 25 planes to take out, not 30. Oops. Thanks to all the sabotaging the gang done beforehand, Sly will basically never get attacked by the other pilots. Thanks to Sly's flying, the team is officially in the Aces finals, even though they only had to fly once. Their next opponents are Team Mugshot and Team Black Baron. The rules in the finals are a bit different than normal. Whoever takes out the defending champ gets the title. The only real competition will be Mugshot himself, so they decide they need to remove him from the competition, and they do it in the greatest way possible. Bentley picks a fight with Mugshot by insulting his mother.
Your mother was a broken down tub of junk with more gentleman callers than the operator.
Nobody talks that way about my mother. Nobody! Okay, little broken down runt. Looks like you're gonna get broken down even more.
Mugshot agrees to meet Bentley at the town square in 5 minutes for their fight. Bentley leaves the hotel and gives Sly the go-ahead to lure Carmelita to the square. Mugshot soon notices Carmelita still holding a chip on his shoulder from when she arrested him in Mesa City. Dares her to try and arrest him again. Carmelita is more than happy to oblige. I love this setup. Carmelita always makes a great addition to an episode. Once again, she is a different voice actress. Third time's the charm, as they say. Although I much prefer the actress from the second game. This actress does emote better in some cases, but I don't really get the different accent. I don't like it, but most people don't like my accent either, so who am I to talk?
That you? I'm sorry. I didn't know they was yours.
Booking this idiot'll take all night. Oh well, I'm sure Cooper won't make his move anytime soon.
Even with Mugshot out of the way, the Baron won't be so easy to deal with. He commands an enormous team of flyers, and has been known to bring in a squad of blimp gunships when things look grim. The answer? Drugs. No, I don't mean take performance enhancing drugs. They drug a wolf and use it to take out the guards in the area, as they are also the Baron's pilots. Obviously. The wolf is the same case as the bears in Sly 2. It is an animal that is an animal that is like the animals in our world, even though the people are animals. All joking aside, the art style of the animals are sharper featured, and it is really obvious from a glance that they are different from the rest of the cast. The graphics in Sly 3 have been given a small but noticeable upgrade. Some of the HUD elements look a lot better, even though they don't fill up the screen in the HD collection. Whatever, I don't care. And everything else is pretty much the same as it was in Sly 2, with one major change that really distinguishes the atmosphere of Sly 3 from that of Sly 2. And that is the utilization of colour. The saturation has been turned up in Sly 3, which has resulted in some stunning looking levels. It is incredible how, despite the fact that all of the hub worlds take place during the night, none of them have a gloomy or depressing atmosphere. They are all very striking in their own way. All of the characters have amazing designs, and their personalities and skills all match up well with their animal personas. For the final step, Bentley needs to hack into the aircraft control tower to intercept any messages the Baron sends to his gunships. Even though Bentley is now in a wheelchair, he has never been more mobile. The modifications that he's made to the chair have essentially made him into a cyborg. He has an amazing triple jump that allows him to reach heights even higher than that of Sly's. Bentley has definitely become much more confident in his capabilities. Where before he was extremely nervous when going out into the field, right from the get-go, he gets out there and even performs some of the more dangerous aspects of jobs. While still physically the weakest of the original 3 gang members, his use of bombs and other new gadgets really makes up for it. Whereas in the last game I kinda dreaded going out in the hub world as Bentley, in Sly 3 he's way more fun to play as. It also helps that Sucker Punch did improve upon making the hub worlds much better for other members besides Sly to get around. I especially love the layout of the Holland hub world. It's divided into little districts and it's pretty much impossible to get lost. Hub worlds now have traps that you can set off to take out guards. They suck and I never use them. I hope they weren't the replacement for the clue bottles, or I'm gonna be pissed. Bentley still has these twin-stick shooter hacking jobs, and they are still very meh. They control fine, but they are just too simplistic to be much fun. After hacking the first 3 computers, he heads over to the aircraft control tower to hack the last computer, but the code becomes unstable, causing one windmill to spin too fast. Its propeller then comes loose and spirals all over the place and hurls into the dike, creating a hole and letting the water fill into the stream. Bentley thinks this system bug will come in handy during Operation Turbo Dominant Eagle. To begin the heist, Sly climbs to the highest point of the highest... that's not what it says. To begin the heist, Sly climbs to the highest point of the Baron's castle. Sly sneaks onto each gunship and covertly plants the trackers while the 2 teams are busy fighting in the B-Champ round. The trackers are quite delicate, so it's important to store them at a high altitude, which means do not fall. I swear I messed this up so many times. I don't remember having this much trouble as a kid. I'm like regressing. The paraglider makes a return in Sly 3 and it is definitely one of the best gadgets in the game. And you can also get it a lot earlier in this game. I think you can get it as early as the start of episode 2. Or maybe partway through episode 2. I can't quite remember. It's early anyway. Sly returns to the team hangar to get ready for the finals after installing the trackers on each gunship. While Sly gets the plane ready to take off, Murray has to use the rowboat to dismantle the 3 supports for the radio antenna. Although the falling planes present a significant risk, they also provide ideal cover. The Baron will need an unscrambled radio frequency to call on the gunships for help now that the building has been demolished. Bentley has a secret weapon ready in the form of a windmill blade just in case. At this time, Sly is positioned atop the ramp, ready to take off. When he reaches the arena, he looks for the Baron's airship, a black one with flashing lights. When his plane has been damaged enough, the Baron then sends for his gunships and an extra plane. Bentley hacks one of the windmills in the area, sending the blade hurling towards the gunships and bringing them crashing down to the ground. For the kids. The Baron then realizes he needs to fix his plane and flies it above his jet wing so he can hop on. Sly comes swooping in to intercept him.
Oh no you don't, you weasel.
Weasel? Am I?
I beat you. Your biplane is in pieces.
We're both still airborne, aren't we?
Since no one has declared victory, they decide to have a fistfight on the plane's wing to determine who will get the prize. This fight is a bit of a pain if you don't know the Baron's attack pattern. He will counterattack if you attack at the wrong time. Partway through, he will call upon some of his guards, but they can be easily dealt with by knocking them off the side. It's also a good opportunity to get some health back. Once you have the attack pattern down, he's not too bad. Sly's last strike on the Baron causes his disguise to fall off. The truth about the Baron's identity is finally revealed to be Penelope. She confides in Sly how glad she feels, saying that she knew someone would eventually figure it out. When Sly inquires as to the rationale, she opts to wait until landing so that the two can have their discussion on safer ground. It was quite a revelation. Penelope and the Black Baron were one and the same, but before everyone could even process this turn of events, they were rushed to the winner's circle. Somehow, against all odds, the gang became this year's champions. There was a bit of an awkward moment between Bentley and Penelope. Sly guessed the photos they'd sent each other over the internet were a bit exaggerated. That night, Penelope explained that the disguise was invented to get her past the dogfighting league's strict age requirements. However, after winning, the Baron became a celebrity, and she found herself putting on the costume more and more often. But now, with the Black Baron out of the picture, she was free to take up a new path, and she joined the gang without hesitation. The next day, the newest recruit treated the gang to a week-long aerial tour of Holland. She was fitting in just fine. After a careful analysis of Dr. M's fortress, Bentley came to a difficult conclusion that his demolition skills just weren't going to be enough. If the gang wanted to get inside the Cooper Vault, they'd have to recruit a full-time demolition specialist. However, Bentley's proposed candidate was a shock. Sly's old enemy, the Panda King. As a member of the original Fiendish Five, he had a part in taking out Sly's dad and stealing pages of the Thievius Raccoonus. Eventually, Sly caught up with him and claimed back what had been stolen. There was no way Sly was going to let that monster on his team. But Bentley was firm. He discovered the Panda King had left his life of crime and was now a monk, living a life of quiet meditation high up in the mountains. Sly wasn't at all convinced, but there was no denying that he had the skills the team needed if they were to succeed. So, the gang packed up, put on their disguises and headed east to China. This episode starts differently from the others, as it doesn't go directly to the hub world. Instead, it has this isolated level that the gang must traverse in order to reach the Panda King. It's very similar to the levels before the hub worlds in Sly 1. I'm not sure if it was an intentional callback to those levels, but in my headcanon, it is. Sly cautioned the gang to stay on guard. In his opinion, the Panda King was just as dangerous as ever. However, Bentley disagreed and remarked on his calmness. Murray complained that his feet hurt from the long walk up the mountain. He noted that back when the gang had the Cooper van, they never had to walk anywhere. Bentley calls out, however, the Panda King is deep within a meditative state, so they will need the Guru's help to be able to converse with him. But first they need to find a way up to get to the shrine. Murray is the first to get up there by using his aboriginal ball form to bounce up. Then Sly is able to spiral jump up with the help of Penelope. Using her RC car, she splits the bamboo shoots to create more points for him to jump on. The RC car is a bit stiff to control. This is mostly felt when turning. It feels like it doesn't turn enough for the direction that you hold the analog stick in. But then it can turn really sharp when starting from a standstill. It just feels really weird. Because of this, I found myself stopping and starting a lot just to move in the exact direction that I wanted. This isn't much of an issue here because it's in an open area and there is zero time pressure, but this will become an issue in later missions. The RC car has a little turret on it that can use to split the bamboo. Despite me not really liking the gameplay of the RC car, this mission is well structured in introducing the mechanics to the player. I just don't care for it. Bentley, Penelope and the Guru need to stabilise the nearby pinwheels in order to reach Sly and Murray. Bentley shoots the inactive rockets on the two pinwheels with his sleep darts. Once they are all lit, the Guru uses the other rocket found on top of the Panda King's home to detach them from the support beams. One pinwheel lands on the ground below, serving as a makeshift elevator, and the other blows down the bridge leading to the Panda King's shrine. They then take the elevator to the top. This mission does a great job at reminding the player as to why the gang is being expanded. If it weren't for the new members, it would have been a lot harder, or maybe even impossible, for Sly, Bentley and Murray to get the job done. Sly sits beside the Panda King as the Guru joins their minds together. Sly, now in a trance, finds himself in a familiar situation, confronting the Panda King in order to reclaim his thievius raccoonus pages. This is something that can only be done in a video game. We get to replay a boss fight from the first game. It plays exactly the same, but this time Sly is stronger thanks to his increased skill and health, showing how far he's come since their first fight. But the Panda King has been unable to move on from the humiliation of being defeated by Sly years prior. Fighting does nothing to help the situation, and the only way to bring the Panda King out of his trance is by talking to him.
We both know why you're here. You're fixated on the moment of your greatest defeat. I beat you. And forever after, you've wondered how it all fell apart.
I hate you, Sly Cooper. You've ruined me. Ruined the Panda King.
And I've hated you. But that doesn't make any of this real. Years have passed, and we've both changed. Come out of this trance. Let's meet each other as we are today, and let go of who we were when this fight occurred.
You are correct. Forgive me. My mind is not always my own.
The Panda King wasn't any more excited about the notion of him joining the gang than Sly was. If it weren't for the Guru, who for some reason really hit it off with the old guy, the whole deal would have been a bust. The gang could see the anger in the Panda King's eyes as he recounted how he lost a member of his own family, a daughter who was abducted by a powerful general from the northern mountains. She was to be the bride in a forced marriage to this unscrupulous ruler, and the Panda King was exiled. The gang agreed to help him recover his lost daughter in exchange for his skills in the Cooper Vault job. Sly still wasn't convinced that this was a good idea, but a deal's a deal.
Sly Cooper and the gang in A Cold Alliance.
It's at this point we finally get to explore the hub world of this episode. The series has visited China before in Sly 1, and this hub world does share the snowy mountain setting. Thankfully there is no ice physics or anything, so the platforming remains as satisfying as it usually is. At the centre point of the map is General Tso's palace, one of the most important locations of this episode. The palace is surrounded by large walls. It has several guards patrolling around it. The guards in Sly 3 have seen a very minor change than that in Band of Thieves. The smaller guards now have more health, but are no longer knocked back, allowing for more damage to be dealt. This means less waiting around for them to run back into the fight, but with the lack of knockback, it is harder to throw them off the side of platforms, and they do have more of an opportunity to counterattack. Carmelita is also patrolling the grounds too. You still are unable to damage her, just like in the last game, but you are able to pickpocket her. Bentley pretends to be a wedding planner in the hopes that General Sao will hire him so that he can learn more about the upcoming wedding of Sao and Jing King. Sao, on the other hand, believes he is able to handle all wedding planning, but he needs a professional photographer. Bentley recommends Sly, but Sao won't hire him without samples. Sly dons yet another disguise and goes to take a few photos of the guards. This job is a bit of a homage to the recon missions in the second game. Though they could be considered to be a bit repetitive, I did really like the recon missions, and I do feel like Sly 3 does a great job in expanding on the idea. Instead of the recon just taking place in a single area, the game will often have Sly moving from location to location. When Sly goes to see Sao, he also takes a few shots of the rooster.
You have a strong sense of, compositional regularity and, force perspectivism. These are adequate. You may have the honor of photographing my wedding.
What a dick. I mean cock. Sao hires Sly after seeing his portfolio. Sly thanks Sao and promises to make it a memorable wedding. Penelope picks up on a mysterious signal, so Murray goes to check it out. When he reaches the location, it turns out to be the team van, which was last seen floating away in Canada, and somehow ended up in China?
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
Murray is determined to get the van back, so Penelope uses her RC chopper to drag the van to the shore, where Murray smashes the ice that is encasing it. The area begins to be swarmed by enemies, and Penelope does her best to help Murray get the van back to the safe house, but her chopper runs out of fuel, but Murray refuses to abandon the van again.
I will not! I will never leave her behind again!
His determination has touched Panda King, and he decides to help Murray using a turret. I wish this wasn't a turret section. It would have been far more impactful if the Panda King went out in person to help Murray, and also would be more fun than a turret section.
Well done, Hippo. You've lit the flames in my soul. I feel awake for the first time in years.
No! Thank you, Panda King. You can ride in my van anytime. You got shotgun for like a month.
A great honor. I accept.
The gang needs to get some more information about the wedding, so Bentley and Sly steal 2 keys simultaneously to get into Sal's place of business. Using his new grapple cam, Bentley lures the guards into helping him bypass the Bentley lures the guards into helping him bypass the security. Sly 3 features a lot of new moves and gadgets, but most of them are optional. They are brought from the thief net, and more will become available as you progress through the game. They still use the same brown poopy meter under the health bar, and once again the game is still really vague about how much a gadget actually uses. The optional gadgets are really outshone by the mandatory ones, like the grapple can, that they almost seem pointless. I mean, why not use the grapple can for everything? You can move it to pretty much anywhere you want, it can lure guards, explode, and later on it even has a turret. Bentley proceeds to the upper level, hacks into the computer, and gets access to the purchase records for the wedding. During Bentley's mission briefing, he realizes that General Sao somehow found the location of the team's safe house, and not only that, he managed to break in and steal Bentley's computer, with all of their plans on it. Bentley begins to panic. This is where Sly steps up and quickly comes up with an impromptu plan to get the mission back on track. Bentley broke into Sal's palace, hacked his computer, and found info on the secret passage located under the prayer bell, then a walk across the heavens. Bentley manipulated the prayer bell that teleports Sly and the Guru to a cliff. Using some Dreamtime powers, the Guru and Sly use levitation to reach a cave. The cave leads to an old battlefield filled with bamboo. For whatever reason, the game's audio glitched out during this section.
Ah, the famous Sly Cooper.
Which really sucks because this is one of the most atmospheric I can't say it. Which really sucks because this is one of the most atmospheric fights in the entire series, and it was ruined. This reminds me a lot of the wire fighting scene in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I have no doubt that this is a direct reference to the film. It came out at the right time, didn't it? When did that movie come out? Like 2003? I don't know, I'd have to Google it. This fight actually has two phases to it. Once Cell takes enough damage, the fight will continue on the ground. General Cell is a cock both literally and figuratively. He's one of those guys who has to convince people that they are better than everyone. He's the guy that if you tell him that you have a girlfriend, then he has two girlfriends that can fly or something. We all know a guy like that. And if you're thinking, I don't know anyone like that, then that guy is you. General Cell is obsessed with his family line, believing it to be superior to any others. He wishes to force the Panda King's daughter, Jin King, to marry him in order to create an even stronger lineage. So pretty much eugenics.
But she doesn't want to marry you.
She's a woman. She doesn't know up from down.
There are only a few interactions with this guy, but they do a great job in conveying how much of a dick he is. Despite him having a limited screen time, he becomes quite a memorable villain and even manages to get one up on the gang when he breaks into the safe house and takes Bentley's computer that has all of the gang's plans on it. Sly goes to finish Cell off, but he throws a smoke bomb in Sly's face and escapes. The gang has their computer back, but all of their plans have been compromised, so there is still some prep work that needs to be done before they can rescue the Panda King's daughter. Because General Cell is such a bastard, the gang have now decided that they are going to empty out the treasury too, just for shits and giggles. They will need the team van for this. Unfortunately, its battery is dead from spending all that time frozen. To charge it, Sly needs to run around the streets and place it in charging stations. Partway through, Sly gets shot down by Carmelita, but this actually helps to charge the battery. After a failed attempt to open a strongbox containing phone wires that could tap into Cell's communications, Penelope rescues Murray from execution using her RC chopper. This job does feel like a bit of filler. In fact, there are a few jobs that feel like this. I think the developers felt that they needed to make more use of the new characters. This is kind of at its worst with Penelope because she was supposed to be a bit of a mystery in the last episode, so we didn't get to see her much. So they try to make up for it in this episode, but this episode really should have been focusing on the Panda King. Thankfully, the final job before the heist features both Sly and the Panda King working together.
Fear not, Cooper. I shall not kill you this day.
Ditto.
There are fireworks stashes all around the area that Cell has locked away. Sly can easily unlock them, allowing the Panda King to use explosives to destroy the Jiangxi vampires resurrected by General Cell. Yes, vampires are canon in the Sly universe. There were crypts and stuff in the other games, so... but no, they were werewolves. They're actually quite creepy. Not gonna lie, they scared me a bit as a kid. Before heading out, the Panda King has a conversation with his past self in the mirror. He is still conflicted about working with Sly. His past self has no desire to go through with this, saying that he is the strength that used to be the once glorious Panda King. The Panda King explains that they will become the father Jin King needs if they work together, and if it weren't for that, Cell would be an ideal son-in-law. He realizes that he must let go of his legacy of being the glorious Panda King in order to get what is best for not only him, but his family. This all happens with Sly being none the wiser. So far in Sly 3, it has become very evident that Sly isn't as much of a focus than he was in the past titles, but the challenges and growth that the other characters go through are also lessons that Sly can reflect upon to also grow as a character. And this one mission with the Panda King is the most significant, as it mirrors Sly's journey of self-discovery. But you only realise this after finishing the game, so I guess it's a spoiler? The Panda King has a launcher mounted on his back that he will load up with fireworks and fire them at enemies. The more fireworks loaded into the launcher, the more that he can fire at the same time. The only thing you need to be careful of is that if you take too long to launch the fireworks, they will go off on the Panda King's back and damage him. You are able to lock onto multiple enemies at a time. You just have to aim the camera in the general direction and the game will lock on. The soft lock on doesn't always target exactly what you think it will, but because you can target so many at the same time, the likelihood of missing is very low. The Panda King also has some hand-to-hand combat moves, but his main form of attack is the fireworks, as the missions he participates in revolve around that. The Panda King is definitely one of the funner new members to control, but it still ain't platforming, and that's what I like the most. While the Panda King deals with the vampires, Sly breaks into the 3 fireworks caches and gives the goods to the Panda King.
We're making a pretty good team. This is the last of the fireworks. Put them in the crypt and kaboom! No more hopping vampires.
Yes, this ordinance will suffice.
They're gonna be fangs everywhere! Right. I'll just head back to the safe house.
Yes, do that.
He heads up to the crypt and blasts it sky high. With the crypt destroyed, the vampires are no longer a threat, and everything is in place for Operation Wedding Crasher. Sly made his way up to General Sal's treasure temple. Sly heads inside to let Penelope and Murray in through the front door before leaving for his rendezvous with the Guru and Panda King. Penelope uses her RC chopper to sneak past the temple's security nodes to get to the computer controlling the security system. I bloody hate driving. They end up having to destroy all the nodes anyway. Once Penelope destroys them all with her car's turrets, the lasers at the entrance disappear, allowing the two to head up to the temple's dragon statue, which is where the hatched door to Sal's treasure is. They open the door and Penelope heads inside to inspect the treasure room. She observes that there is plenty of loot, but the temple's foundation is weak and unstable. Meanwhile, Sly makes his way to the entrance of General Sal's palace, where the Guru and the Panda King were waiting underneath. Before heading inside, Sly places a calling card at the entrance. After Sly contacts the Panda King and the Guru to let them know he was in position. The vases around Sly are used in an ancient Chinese security technique to detect underground thieves. The Panda King is using his fireworks to blast his way into Jin King's bridal chamber. The vibrations from the fireworks shake the building and make the vases unstable. Sly has to prevent any of them from falling and tripping the alarm. I always hated this segment as a kid. It just made me feel really anxious. And I wasn't even an anxious kid or anything. It's weird what things trigger you sometimes. Once the Panda King and Guru get into the bridal chamber and rescue Jin King, Sly enters the palace main room and informs Bentley that it was his turn now. Bentley uses his grapple cam to lure Carmelita, who is patrolling the streets, to the front of the palace, where Sly left his calling card. Bentley then waits just below the temple for Murray and Penelope to drop the loot down. Carmelita notices the calling card and goes inside the palace to investigate. She spots Sly dressing up as General Sal and conversing with Bentley via the radio about their secret plan Alpha before he left out the side door. Carmelita decides to take the place of the bride and arrest the gang during the wedding. She goes into Jin King's now vacant bridal room and disguises herself as the bride. Afterwards, General Sal comes in to investigate the vibrations that were disturbing his meditation. Not knowing his unwilling bride was already freed, he then left for his treasure temple. By the time Sal left, the Panda King and the Guru were waiting in the Cooper van with Jin King. Murray and Penelope just finished opening the treasure room in the temple. Murray, unable to contain his excitement and wary of the fact that Sal was coming, thunder flopped down into the treasure room. The flop destroys the temple's unstable foundations and causes Murray and Penelope to fall through the ground with the treasure. As the rest of the temple falls into the water, Sal runs towards the temple. Realizing what happened, Sal curses the gang for destroying his family's temple. Murray launches the treasure chest down to Bentley. Outraged, Sal summons the temple's stone dragon to attack the Cooper gang.
I'm the Great Stone Dragon! Good morning!
It shoots a fireball near Murray, causing him to jump off the cliff, and the dragon then grabs Penelope. General Sal proclaims his superiority to the Cooper family. Sly retorts by saying that it's not about the family name, but what you did with it. Sly uses the fireworks to fly up to the dragon and attack it until it releases Penelope. Yes, this is a dragon, and you may be wondering why I'm more okay with a dragon than I am with the Mask of Dark Earth. Well, honestly, I'm not entirely sure how to explain it. I think it might be because there was a giant water serpent in the first game, and this is kind of similar, but in the sky. Also, I'm inconsistent. I don't really like this fight because if Sly falls off, you have to run around trying to find another firework to get back up. Also, I hate the dragon's freaky chicken hands. Once the dragon is defeated, Sly paraglides Penelope down safely to the van.
I still win, Cooper. You might have stolen my treasure and thwarted my dragon, but I still have the bride. Jin King is mine.
General Sal had his wedding right on schedule. Everything was as he arranged, except the bride came as kind of a shock. Carmelita was a little disappointed it wasn't Sly she busted at the altar, although she probably didn't mind taking Sal into custody. He did, after all, plague the streets with the undead. The locals were happy to see him go. The gang dropped off Jin King with her aunt. The Panda King insisted that she'd be safe there, and that he needed to pay off his debt to the gang. Sly was still wary, but there was no denying that his skills would come in handy. Needless to say, they lived it up in the back streets of Shanghai. What kind of thieves would they be if they passed up on recreation like that? The gang got the message late one Saturday night. Dmitri was calling in the favour Sly promised him back in Holland. He'd gone ahead and booked the whole team passage under assumed identities to none other than Bloodbath Bay, easily the most lawless town on earth. It's home to a group of cultural hermits who doggedly maintain the ways of their pirate forefathers. The cruise over gave them some time to get the rundown from Dmitri. His grandfather, Remy Lusseau, was a pioneer in deep-sea diving. He made a fortune looting undersea wrecks, although his luck ran short when a young cutthroat by the name of Black Spot Pete stole not only his loot, but his precious diving gear as well. A broken man, Remy retired from treasure hunting and eventually started a family. Dmitri, growing up on his grandfather's stories, dreamed of one day recovering the gear. So that was their task. They'd be called in to get their hands on this miraculous diving equipment. Not all bad, really. If things go their way, the team might get a frogman out of the deal, which Bentley figures will be a big help cracking the Cooper Vault. That Bentley, always thinking.
Sly Cooper and the gang in...
Dead men tell no tales.
Am I annoying to you when I do things?
Episode 5 is a very unique episode. A lot of the jobs that take place in Bloodbath Bay are very gimmicky, for a lack of a better word. Let's just say there's a severe lack of traditional platforming segments. In fact, half of the game feels very underutilized. As the gang has expanded, the game has struggled with maintaining a good balance of mission types. Sly 2 did a much better job in that regard, but there were only the 3 original members back then. I really wish there were more Sly-centric platforming sections, as they were always my favourite. Sly's movement and controls haven't really changed at all from the second game. He's still light on his feet, can jump and climb with ease, and is still wielding the family cane as a weapon. I guess it's kind of hard to improve on perfection. Out of all 3 of the original gang members, Sly has changed the least, but this makes sense within the overall story of the trilogy. In Sly 1, he was a fledgling thief, and by the end of the game he had become a master thief, thanks to his gang and of course the Thievius Raccoonus. In Sly 2, we got to play as this master thief, and the controls were just fantastic. So in Sly 3, we are still playing as a master thief, but in different environments, and it is through the missions and locations as we will see most of the changes to the core gameplay loop. Upon arriving in Bloodbath Bay, Sly visits a local bar frequented by Black Spot Pete. He finds the aged pirate there and attempts to strike up a conversation with him about his treasure. Being an outsider, Sly is immediately shunned by Pete, who will only discuss his treasure with his shipmate Cantankerous Tim. Sly learns that Tim died when 3 of his shipmates mutinated on him. These 3 lieutenants then divided up Tim's treasure, including his clothes. Sly has to steal 3 pieces of clothing to make up a disguise. When going after the pirate with the hat, the game glitched a bit. Normally he's supposed to be up in the bird's nest, but for whatever reason he was down on the deck. Sly dresses in the get-up and goes back to speak with Black Spot Pete. With his sunburnt eyes, he mistakes Sly for his old shipmate. While Sly is eager to talk treasure with the old pirate, Pete challenges Sly to a round of vinegar talk first. It's another dialogue segment, but this time you have to use insults and you must make sure not to repeat any.
You are a cricket-sized, pus-faced piece of filth. 'Tis already been said, no pirate worth his salt would reuse an insult. It's a crime before nature.
Fuck. Sly learns that he buried his treasure along with the stolen diving gear of Remy Lusseau on Dagger Island. However, the treasure map has been stolen and is in the possession of Captain Lafouille.
What? What?
Who has locked it away in Skull Keep. The name Skull Keep sounds very menacing, like a hidden away lair or something, but it's actually just across the road. Definitely one of the downsides of having condensed hub worlds, but overall I think they are a good size. But Bloodbath Bay has some areas that are very underused and some that aren't used at all. I miss the clue bottles. Sly returns to the safe house with the information about the treasure map. Penelope and Bentley work together to locate the whereabouts of said treasure map.
Okay, Penelope, I'm in position with your hover spectrometer. I'll launch the device, and you scan for metal structures that resemble a safe or chest, anything the treasure map might be stored in.
Roger, Bentley. Let's light this candle.
Be still, my heart. She made an obscure NASA reference. Why do the girls always have to go for Sly? It's just not fair.
What was that? I didn't read ya.
Oh, nothing. I was just saying that we've got fair winds for liftoff. Let's do it!
During their time together, Bentley expresses that he is a bit jealous over Sly's abilities. Bentley and Sly are kind of opposites, but that is what makes them work so well together. And most importantly, they respect and care for each other. Never at any point in the series do you get the sense that they're trying to get one up on each other. And that's what makes the relationship between the characters such a joy to see. The writers could have so easily gone along with this little love triangle between Bentley and Penelope and Sly to create a bit of drama in the story, but they don't. They stay true to the characters, and the story is so much better off for it. Working together, they manage to find the location of the chest that holds the treasure map. They make their way up into Skull Keep.
The door here is locked, but you should be able to bomb the support to that upper walkway.
And have to take out a few of LeFou's men.
This must be it. I've never seen a security chest so thick with traps.
I don't know. Looks pretty straightforward. If I had my spanner set, this would be a cinch.
Really? Let's head back to the safe house and get your tools.
I'd like to stay here if you don't mind and study it some more.
Sure, I'll be back in a flash.
Penelope successfully bypasses the traps and opens the chest, but gets blinded by some dust. Bentley uses his grapple can to rescue her, and they return to the safe house. Penelope thanks Bentley, and he checks if the dust has any lasting effects on her. How romantic. Now that the gang is in possession of the map, they set sail for the open sea. Sly and Bentley make good use of the rowboat to take out the harbour security. With the patrols no longer in operation, it will be a lot easier to borrow a boat. Forever. That's right, we get our own pirate ship to sail the open sea. Take that, Assassin's Creed 4. The Sly series did it first. But not better. The sailing mechanics feel a bit unfinished. No, that's not the right word. They feel very unrefined. Out on the sea, you control the ship with the left and right triggers. There are chests that you can collect that will give you coins. There will also be other ships sailing around. When you run into them, a ship battle will commence. Just like in the overworld, you use the right and left triggers to turn. The ship has cannons on both sides, and you want to try your best to line up the cannons with the enemy ship. To fire the cannons, Sly must run over and hit them, so you're simultaneously controlling Sly and the ship. Which sounds like it would be confusing, but it's really not. Beware that enemy ships can also fire at you. If the ship springs a leak, the health bar will continuously deplete until you patch up the hole by running over and whacking it with the cane. When the enemy ship's health is low, you have the option to board the ship and fight the pirates on board. If you do this, you will earn more coins. But honestly, I never do this. I just sink them to the bottom and watch them all drown. The extra coins just aren't worth it. Their lives aren't worth the coins. Speaking of coins, this is the best place to farm coins to buy all of the gadgets off the thief net, which is great if you wait until episode 5 to buy most of the gadgets, but it sucks if you didn't. Up until this point, pickpocketing is where you'll earn the majority of the coins, but the problem with farming coins through pickpocketing is that it scales the amount you get for valuables depending on the episode. For example, you will earn significantly more coins from pickpocketing enemies in episode 5 than you do in episode 1. So even if you do a bunch of pickpocketing in early game, you will still find yourself falling behind in coins later on. The gang lands on Dagger Island, and with the map in hand, Sly must follow the instructions to find the buried treasure. This is a really cool mission type, and there is actually one treasure hunt you can do for each episode through the Master Thief challenges. These are bonus missions based on completed story missions. They have special conditions like time limits or starting with half health to make completing them a little bit more difficult. They are completely optional though, unless you're going for 100% completion of course. Some of the Master Thief challenges I really enjoy, specifically the treasure hunts and the platforming ones, but I don't like having to redo some of the other mission types, like driving that bloody RC car. Sly gives Dimitri the honour of opening the chest and is joyful to finally have his grandfather's scuba diving gear back in the family. Before they can take a peek of the rest of the treasure in the chest, Lafouille and his crew confront them, with Penelope in his hands. Lafouille then orders the gang to return to their ship and sacrifice the gold, unless they want to lose Penelope. With no other options, the gang decides to return to the ship. Bentley assures Penelope that they will save her. Clearly, the only goal at this point is saving Penelope. Lafouille's ship, the Death's Head, has sailed back to Bloodbath Bay, with her on board as captive. There is no way the gang will be able to sneak into the harbour. Even the backside of the island is inaccessible due to reefs. First, Dimitri put his new diving gear to use by salvaging some weapons from nearby shipwrecks. The extra firepower will be able to deal damage to the armor-enforced Death's Head. Diving is yet another new gameplay type, and once again it is very underutilized, but honestly I don't really mind it for this one because I don't like it. Diving takes place in a first-person perspective with awkward controls. Well, it's not so much that the controls are bad, but you get so little time to get used to them, and by the time you do, the mission is over. Dimitri needs to collect some cannon blast amplification collars that have fallen off sunken ships. By placing them into the basket, the team is able to pull them up onto the ship. Now that they have the collars, they will need to fortify their gunpowder with some hammerhead shark bones. These sharks are attracted to yellow dartfish, therefore Dimitri needs to swim down below the reef and snag a couple. Catching these fish requires fast swimming. After grabbing 2 of the yellow fish, 5 hammerhead sharks will spawn. They will take 2 shots to kill and will charge at Dimitri. This is where the strafing maneuvers come in handy. And these are one of the controls that are really easy to mess up. Instead of using the analog sticks to move left or right, it is the left and right bumper buttons. It actually works really well, but damn if I kept messing it up. Next, the gang head into misty waters to seek the help of Crusher, a kraken. Though I don't think the game ever refers to it as a kraken, but that's basically what Crusher is. Lafouille's men greatly fear the beast, and it will be an immense help in the battle ahead. It's the penultimate episode, but it doesn't really feel like it. It feels more like a side story in a way, as it has so many gimmick moments. It just feels out of place for where it is within the overall story. I really think that A Cold Alliance should have been the 5th episode. Its themes would lead in better to the final episode, at least that's what I think. Sly, with the help of the Panda King's explosives, are able to pacify the beast enough for the guru to bring him under his control. The gang fight through some of Lafouille's crew to make it back into Bloodbath Bay and start Operation Reverse Double Cross. The primary objective is to save Penelope, whose location at this point is unknown. The team suspects she might be either in Skull Keep or Lafouille's ship. They decide to approach Lafouille's ship carefully to avoid sinking it, as Penelope could be on board. Sly manages to get information from Lafouille, who reveals that Penelope is locked in irons on Skull Keep. Sly heads to Skull Keep, where he faces an ambush set by Lafouille. The plan backfires and Sly is caught in an explosion. Thankfully, Murray was able to rescue him. Bentley, navigating the boat, tries to escape Lafouille, but is spotted and his mast is shot down. Fortunately, the water is deep enough for Crusher to help Bentley. The beast then begins to fight off the pirates. Once Penelope is freed, Lafouille threatens Bentley to call off Crusher or he will kill her. Sly returns to confront Lafouille but is knocked overboard. Bentley pleads with the guru to save Sly from drowning. Penelope takes matters into her own hands.
Nobody touches that turtle but me.
Me pirate flower finally blooms, yet ye'd favor this cripple over me, the smartest man on the 7 seas?
Oh, I do like smart guys. And he beat you at your own game. You tell me who's more intelligent.
Be still my heart and quick me blade. 'Tis time for a duel. You and I'll make the mating dance of death.
Lafouille is a very forgettable villain. Probably the most forgettable in the series. At least for me anyway. In fact, Slytherin as a whole has the weakest lineup of villains. They have no connection to one another like in the last 2 games. The looming threat that was felt from Clockwork is not there, Yes, the gang is working towards overcoming Dr. M, but because Sly 3 is a flashback, it's not even clear if Dr. M even knows that the gang is attempting to get into the Cooper Vault, so it's not like he's trying to sabotage the gang's efforts or anything at this point. The Vault is more of a looming threat than Dr. M, but I think that is kind of the point. During the boss fight against LaFuy, you need to pay attention to LaFuy's attacks so you can dodge and counterattack at the correct moments. It is essentially a rhythm game hidden in a sword fight. It is quite fun and reminds me a bit of the Miss Ruby boss fight, which is another one that I really enjoyed. It's a nice touch that despite all of the efforts, it is Penelope who ends up rescuing herself. LaFuy was beat, outsmarted by the gang's own resident genius who'd done more than just rescue a team member. He'd won himself a girlfriend. It was nice to hear him talk. They'd have these conversations the rest of the team couldn't even follow. Far as Sly could tell, they were made for each other. Dimitri was in love too. The new diving gear had gone to his head. They were informed that he'll be the gang's new frogman for the Cooper Vault job. Not that any of them had even asked him. For the first time in recent memory, Carmelita didn't show up and cart everyone to jail. Oh well, they would have to send her a postcard. Sly would hate for her to feel left out. All these memories, they just brought Sly back to the same place, getting crushed to death in the fist of some genetics experiment gone wrong. Not the way Sly thought he'd go out. Shame, really. Now that they've got this big gang, more like a pack of misfits. Either way, they'd become a team. They had some real potential there. Could have pulled off some big jobs. They were so close. The door to the Cooper Vault was open, but that Dr. M, if there's any justice, he would get his. Sly just wished he had seen what was in there. A stockpile of his family's accomplishments. Would he have measured up? What would Sly contribute? Would his father have been proud of him or ashamed? Funny, but here Sly is at the end, and suddenly all he could think about is what a coward he'd been towards Carmelita. Never took the next step. Looking at Bentley and Penelope, it was clear what life is about. If Carmelita was here, he would tell her straight out how he felt and quit playing around, put their professional differences aside and see if they could make it work. But that'd never happen now.
Can't take this crushing. Just let the pain stop.
Sly Cooper and the gang in Honor Among Thieves.
And just when it looked like the Cooper line was about to come to an end, who better to show up to save the day than Carmelita Fox? She is by far the most overpowered character in the game, so it makes sense both thematically and gameplay wise that she will be the one to be able to take out the mutant. Up to this point, Carmelita is portrayed as a pretty straight-laced cop, apart from when it comes to Sly, of course.
You harpy witch! Why are the police invading my home?
I'm here to see that justice is done.
Justice? I'm the victim here, defending what's mine from thieves!
Looked to me like you were attempting to murder that man.
That man? Please, you know this is Sly Cooper. You're as transparent as you are narrow-minded.
Cooper is a criminal. I'm here to bring him and all lawbreakers to justice.
I'm no lawbreaker. It was all self-defense.
First things first. Put Cooper down and we'll talk terms.
However, Dr. M orders his mutant to attack Carmelita, forcing her to escape on her boat. The mutant pursues them, but Dr. M decides to search for Sly's cane and leaves him for dead. Bentley and the others find Sly barely alive and rescue him. This final episode is structured the same as the prologue. There is no hub world to freely run around and explore. Instead, it flows from one mission to another as the gang once again attempts to gain entrance into the Cooper Vault. With Sly recovering from a mutant attack, Bentley, Dimitri, Penelope and the Guru try to figure out how to retrieve Sly's cane. The cane is attached to an electromagnetic buoy set up by Dr. M. making it difficult to approach. They realise that the metal parts on Dimitri's diving gear could magnetise him to the buoy, making the task even harder. The Guru proposes possessing a group of sharks to attack and destroy the buoy. Bentley agrees as the Guru has no metal equipment. With the Guru's help, they gather a group of sharks and drive them into a frenzy, successfully sabotaging the buoy. Unfortunately, the cane falls into the sea. Dimitri takes on the task of diving in to retrieve it.
I'll dive, baby. I dive for the love.
He encounters a strong current that he must navigate through. Eventually, he comes across Dr. M, who is using a mutant fish to protect the cane. Dimitri engages in a harpoon battle with the fish, successfully defeating it. However, Dr. M still manages to swim away with the cane. Dimitri returns to the ship empty-handed. Upon waking up, Sly meets Bentley and Penelope above deck and asks if Dimitri was able to retrieve his cane. Penelope informs him that Dr. M managed to steal it. Despite Sly's urgency to take action, Bentley advises him to wait, as confronting Dr. M and accessing the Cooper Vault is impossible with the missile turrets linked to the radar towers. Bentley and Penelope devise a plan to use her modified RC car to destroy the radar towers. Sly will now be able to take to the skies in his biplane. He successfully takes out the sensor banks of the 14 missile defense turrets. Fighters emerge from the ocean, but Sly manages to disable their shields and shoot them down. Then a whale fly appears, with Dr. M attached to it.
Alright, I have already lost the plot completely.
Sly is challenged by Dr. M, who claims to be the master of the sky. Sly attempts to attack him, but Dr. M counters with missile pods and defense systems. Sly, against all odds, paraglides onto the whale fly and confronts Dr. M.
Headstrong, just like your father.
You don't know anything about me or my father.
Really? Who let you in on the secret of this place, eh? Was it my old pal McSweeney, perhaps?
McSweeney works for you? This was all a setup to get the cane.
No, my boy. Once upon a time, he and I worked together for your dear old dad.
My father wouldn't have run with a guy who'd try to steal from the Cooper Vault, let alone attempt to kill his son.
Time does strange things to people. Just look at the real leader of your gang, Bentley.
Whatever. We're friends. Equals.
Then why is it called the Cooper Gang, you self-centered egomaniac?
That's enough. Time to meet the past.
He contacts Bentley and urges him and Murray to join him inside the vault. The Panda King equips the Cooper van with rockets, launching it up to the entrance. Murray drives the van inside, followed by Sly, as they prepare to enter the vault together. Once inside the Cooper Vault, Bentley and Murray are in awe. Sly informs them that he must proceed alone. Bentley understands and encourages Sly to go ahead since the vault was made for him. Bentley and Murray decide to stay behind and hold down the fort. Just like the player was put to the test with all the gang members to get into the vault, now it is time for the player to start the ultimate platforming challenge, and so begins the largest platforming section in the entire Sly trilogy. As Sly makes his way through, he will be tested with each of his ancestors who added their skills to the Thievius Raccoonus. What seems like it should be a triumphant moment feels more foreboding than anything. Like Sly has to go through all these trials and tribulations just to prove something to a bunch of dead guys he doesn't even really know. One of the main criticisms levied towards Sly 3 is the lack of focus on the main character Sly, which if you just look at it on the surface is true, but if you take in the entire Sly series as a whole, it is very clear that this game is about Sly. At the beginning of Sly 1, we find out that Sly comes from a long line of master thieves, and like his father before him, he wants to take up this mantle. But before he could inherit the Thievius Raccoonus and all the knowledge held within, his mother and father were killed. He was made an orphan and was unable to walk in his father's footsteps, at least in the more traditional sense. We never really learn much about his father, aside from the fact that he was a master thief. We have no idea if he was a good person or not. we don't even know if Sly knew what his father was like. At the start of the series, it was very easy to assume that he was like Sly, a bit cocky but overall a good person that wants to do right by his friends and family. Dr. M is the villain, so we have to take what he says with a grain of salt, but it does make you think that maybe Sly's dad isn't who we assumed him to be. Like, doesn't it seem weird that the loot that the Cooper gang gets is kept in a Cooper vault that only a Cooper can open? Isn't that extremely unfair? What about the other members? Honestly, I'd be a bit pissed too. Sly 1 and 2 have framed the idea of being a master thief as a positive thing, that this is what Sly is meant to do, and could use these skills to solve all of his problems, when in reality, the legacy of the Cooper family was the catalyst for a lot of these problems. The Fiendish Five was led by Clockwork, an enemy inherited from his ancestors. The incident with the Claw Gang cost Bentley his legs and psychologically scarred Murray, and it was all to stop the reincarnation of Clockwork, which again didn't really have anything to do with Sly or his friends. And now there is Dr. M, someone who feels slighted by the Cooper legacy. And why wouldn't he? He does make a good point, that the Cooper fortune shouldn't just be reserved for the Cooper line. Just because it's tradition doesn't make it right. Dr. M tries to project these ideas onto Bentley, asking if he too feels slighted by his friend Sly. This thought does weigh on Bentley's mind. When guarding the entrance to the vault, he even asks Murray if he feels like he plays second fiddle to Sly.
No way! Sly's cool! We're all in this together!
Sure, we're all here, but are we equal? Who went into the vault? Sly. By himself.
Watch out!
Dr. M's goons? They must have forced the door after we opened the lock.
Think of it this way, Bentley. If it were you in that vault and Sly and I were out here, what would he do?
Stop these thugs and protect his friend.
Right, and that's what I'm gonna do. Keep your head down, stay clear. I'm gonna smash a lot of skulls, and I don't want yours to be one of them.
The way Murray and Bentley act towards Sly and are willing to sacrifice for him tells you all you need to know about Sly as a person. The Cooper gang has become Sly's family, and a lot of the bad stuff that has happened to them is a result of them leading this lifestyle of thieves, only enjoying small reprieves and continuously on the run. From the very beginning of the series, Sly wanted to be a master thief and follow in his family's footsteps. What he needs to do is to forge his own way, a better way, for the sake of his friends and family. Sly eventually arrives at his father's challenge, and after a moment of reflection, he realizes that his father's move was one that was never placed in the Thievius Raccoonus. The laser slide allows Sly to slide across laser beams as if they were solid. With this newfound ability, Sly navigates the final part of the gauntlet and arrives at a massive door leading to the inner sanctum. As he enters, he can't help but wish that his friends were here with him. Sly enters the inner sanctum and faces off against Dr. M. A fierce battle ensues as Dr. M utilizes his contraption to fly above the lasers, firing at Sly while he skillfully avoids the attacks. Sly uses his cane to grab onto Dr. M's contraption, leading to a showdown on the center platform. As their intense battle nears its end, Sly manages to push Dr. M to the brink of defeat. In a surprising moment, Sly attempts to reason with him, emphasizing that not all Coopers are inherently bad. He uses his close bond with Bentley as an example of how genuine friendship can exist among Coopers. Dr. M appears perplexed, admitting that he and Connor Cooper were never close friends. Sly responds by highlighting that each Cooper is unique, even if they share the same bloodline. He tries to show Dr. M that judging an entire clan based on one person's action is unfair and misguided. And that right there is the essence of what Sly's journey throughout the series is about. Learning that Sly is himself before anyone's descendant, and that it's okay to let go and move on to something new. And just as it had been many times before, it is Carmelita Fox that comes to the rescue, helping Sly out of the trouble he had gotten himself into. Sly and Carmelita's relationship has never been at the forefront of the series' narrative, but it has always been there, weaved through the many characters' dialogues and small interactions between heists. I think this is why it works so well. It's not in your face. It's just implied. Like everybody just knows, you know?
Hold it right there! Both of you thieves are going to jail.
Nice to see you, gorgeous.
You too.
Oh, a love interest. I might be beaten, but I'll make you suffer.
Not her!
No one hurt my criminal!
Unfortunately, during my playthrough, this fight kind of glitched out and ruined the climax. First off, when Sly landed the final blow, Dr. M got stuck upside down. At first I thought it just looked funny, and it seemed that the rest of the scene was going to play out as usual. However, when playing as Carmelita, I quickly realised that I couldn't kill Dr. M, because the game already thought he was dead. So I did the only logical thing and tried to kill Carmelita, but that too proved to be an impossible task. She was just stuck down in a dark void forever. Yeah, so the build up to the climax was ruined, and I had to start the final boss fight again. Luckily, I've played this game so many times that it was just funny to me, but man, if this were to happen to someone on their first playthrough, that would really suck.
What happened?
Sly?
Where are we? What is this place?
Sly, can you remember anything?
No. Who are you? You look familiar.
I'm Inspector Carmelita Montoya Fox.
And who am I?
You're my partner, Constable Cooper.
Well, partner, we'd better get out of here. The ceiling's gonna go. Haven't got much time.
Let's go.
Sly! You in here? Sly?
They watched as Dr. M just stood there, unwilling to leave as the wolves caved in on the vault. He spent his life lusting over the Cooper fortune, and he wasn't going to give it up, no matter what the cost. The gang's exit was a little rough, but Murray managed to get them out just in time to witness the final fate of the Cooper legacy. It was a bittersweet moment. The end of the road always is. Bentley and Murray both looked on, lost in their thoughts, thinking back on all the adventures that had brought them here, the people they'd met, and the places they'd seen. They'd worked for a long time to get Sly into that vault, and now its secrets were hidden again, this time for good. Bentley only hoped that Sly found what he was looking for in there. They searched every inch of the island for Sly, retrieving the gang one by one, only to make a surprising discovery that he didn't want to be found. As always, he'd left a calling card, only this time it was worth millions. The months rolled by, and when Sly still hadn't shown up, Murray headed back east to complete his training with the Guru. Without Sly as their leader, for the first time they each had to step out on their own, a difficult thing. They'd been together ever since they'd met at the orphanage. To this day, Murray and Bentley are still close. Recently, Murray had been trying to break into the pro racing circuit, stock fan class. Things are looking good. He's got a talent for living through crashes other people would have found fatal. Just always bounces clear. And of course there's Penelope, Bentley's new partner in crime. He's in love. Penelope and Bentley have set out on a journey that he never would have dreamt up while running with Sly and Murray, although he hopes their paths will cross again soon. So while this might be the end of their adventures together, it could be the start of something even bigger. Time will tell. Literally. Because Bentley is building a time machine to find out. Sucker Punch did leave Sly 3 with an open ending, but I don't think they ever intended to continue the series themselves. 6 years later, Thieves in Time was officially announced, and like many others, I was absolutely ecstatic. I was always hopeful for the continuation of one of my favourite franchises, but back then I was younger and dumber, and never really appreciated how well Sucker Punch wrapped up the trilogy. I didn't know what I was asking for. I think Sanzaru Games made a mistake by making the 4th game about Sly, because his story was finished. As much as I would have loved for Sucker Punch to continue on with the Sly series, it ended perfectly and ended on their terms. The developers were ready to move on, and so they did, creating the infamous franchise and the excellent Ghost of Tsushima. But they never forgot Sly, and neither will I.
sneaky devil.